Hello and welcome to another episode of Convos with Sazón with yours truly, Cata Mejía. With me today is Calixto Chinchilla. He is the founder and executive director of the New York Latino Film Festival. Bienvenido. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I am so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here because I've watched your stuff. And
because
I'm excited.
You are quite busy right now. You know, the next film festival is around the corner, and it's not just any. It's your 25th, which is a huge deal.
It's crazy.
Congratulations, first and foremost.
Thank you.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
But I want to talk about you first.
Okay.
Let's talk about your background, your upbringing. How has all of that contributed into why you chose to go the film route? How the New York Latino Film Festival came to be? Kick us off.
It's a loaded one. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to get into film. I always liked films ever since I was like 6 years old. And initially, I wanted to be a film director.
Okay.
So throughout it all, like even growing up, I wanted to be a filmmaker. Grew up humble beginnings in the projects, single
Here in
parent.
New York?
Yeah. And so it was me and my brother and my mother. I'm the youngest. And I was, I guess, the creative one. My brother's not in this. My mother has no clue about this, but she sees it now. And I always wanted to work in film. And then me and my best friend grew up in the same projects, and he wanted to work in film. And as God would have it, we both work in entertainment. But that's a whole other journey. But as I graduated, I couldn't afford film school, but I ended up taking photography, and I got accepted to go to FIT and take photography, but I realized that wasn't my passion. I still wanted to, I knew visuals. I just couldn't afford a college for that. So I was like, let me figure something out. So then I ended up making my own short film. And me and my best friend, we raised money. We would sell candy on the trains, wherever, to make the fundraise for this short. Yeah. And we made our short.
What was it about?
It was about this kid who was a player. And it was a day in the life of this, papi, chulo, who thought he was
We all know the type.
Yes. And it was like that. And so, we rated it to something that we can, connect with. And, but gave me a lot of attention because we end up getting, like Sergio George, who's a big salsa producer, gave me DLG when they first came out. And I got Sony to give me acts. We got this attention out of nowhere because we were able to get Latin labels to give us music, to give us acts and whatever. And so we peppered it with that. And we had no money. So everybody did it for free. And it was on a huge amount of trust. And so I did this film, had a mostly Black and Latino crew. And when I was done with it, I kind of got screwed over in the post-production. I didn't know contracts. I was a young kid. Yeah. My film kind of disappeared. But what I learned in the process is, there was a bunch of us that had nowhere to play. So it's not like a Tribeca Film Festival existed at the time. And so if we made this film, where would it go? And there was no place for it to go. And
all of that effort, not for nothing, but for no one to see it?
No one to see it, but also I realized that there was a lack of education. I couldn't be the only one that didn't know well about contracts and how these things worked. So it was a learning curve for me, but I also felt like there was a larger piece of show business maybe our culture didn't know and how this system worked. But also, creating a space, a community space where these films could be exhibited, because I felt like I can't be the only one. There has to be others. And so that's when the kind of ideation of doing a film festival kind of started to percolate. And I thought I was crazy. I really did. I really thought I was nuts. I didn't tell my mother about this. I told no one about this. I didn't even tell my best friend until a little bit later.
Why do you think you kept it to yourself?
Because I didn't need anyone to justify my crazy.
Oh, okay. Oh, we love that.
So I was like, in case it fails, nobody knows. And let me just figure this thing out. And so, because again, I didn't even know there was enough content. If there's enough content to warrant the festival. But somewhere in my gut, I felt like there was. And then that's when the beginnings of what will become the New York Latino Film Festival started to kind of percolate.
You just mentioned big names, you know, early on, working on with Sergio George, working with Sony, working with all of these big names as you were just starting. Tell me how you even got your start with them, because there's going to be someone out there who watches this and has a dream and they're like, okay, pero espérate, ¿cómo empezaste? Like, tell me how you did it.
Yeah.
Not so that people replicate your steps necessarily, but you know, they are really big names at such a beginning that I'm sure contributed to what the festival is now. So tell us more about that.
I think a lot of it's just exhibiting confidence. Like for me, I had to believe everything that I was thinking about. Like I had to really believe in myself in a deeper way. And I felt like I was playing a role. Like I felt like, okay, well, in this moment, I'm the executive director. Obviously, I'm the producer of my film, but I'm the executive director of this organization. And I think when I worked to that in my mind, even to this day, I believe it, you know, I'm working for this company. Like, yes, I may own it, but I'm still an employee of the film festival. I'm still an employee of NYLFF. I'm still an employee. I still have to answer to our partners. I still have to answer to the public. I still have to answer to you, you know, whether you give me your talent or not. So I felt like I had to exhibit that, and I really had to believe in myself. If I didn't, I was going to crumble, and I felt like I just needed to play this part.
And what was the first iteration of the film festival? So you said you had your film, right? And you were in the process of learning what contracts were like and all of those things that come with being in the role that you chose to take on. But tell us about the first one ever.
So when it came time to start the festival, yes, I pitched HBO. And so I found the headquarters. I had a friend that was, you know, working on the inside who was like, maybe you should call these people, call marketing, call this or whatever. So I would call and I would make nice with the receptionist. Receptionist doesn't know me from Adam. I'm calling a VP, you know, in a department. And I kept, you know, I would star 69, whatever I could do to get through. So
some people were using it to prank call.
Yeah.
You were using it to make a film festival. I love it.
Because they would pick up the phone. You never know. It could be the executive and not the assistant. So then I made nice with the assistants. I would ask, you know, how you doing? You know, it doesn't have to be like, can I please speak to whatever? So I kind of changed it. And then one time when I was working, because I was going to school, I was going to college, and I was working 2 jobs. And living with my mom's, right? And so...
What jobs did you have? I
worked at the French Institute, Alliance Française. And then I worked for the Big Apple Circus at Lincoln Center.
Nice.
And so, which I have never said that on camera, but I worked for the Big Apple Circus. I traveled with the circus. That's a whole other story.
We're going to tap into that.
With animals, all of that. But, and so I was working, and I was on the phone. I was like, let me just call. There's no customers here. Let me call. And the receptionist talks to me, and she's like, I'm going to put you through. And right when she says, I'm going to put you through, I kid you not, a customer comes. And I'm like, what? And then like I told my coworker, go handle this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting in the room. It's taking this long. So I say what I have to say in the 5 minutes. Like, imagine, this is
the famous
person,
elevator pitch.
But this is a person you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you through. What are you going to say? Whatever I said, we're going to give you a meeting. We'll give you 10, 15 minutes. I said, okay. So I prepare myself for this meeting. I go in, I make my case, I walk away with a contract that day. Okay. And that's how the festival started. And then I start crying in the elevator, call my best friend, and I said, I think things are going to change. And I had to start the company. We had to find an office. I had to figure things out. Everything that I said I could do, now I had to figure out how to do it. So how do you find films from around the world? What do you do? How do you go and see what's out there? I pitched you on the notion that I can find a bunch of films that I'm going to create the biggest Latino film festival, whatever it is, I'm going to create this. And now, like, there was a oh shoot moment. And then I had to go figure it out without knowing if there was enough content, without knowing if there was enough feature films, just with the intuition and something in me that felt like there was enough content out there to warrant the festival. And then how are we going to get people to come? There was no social media. So how are you going to get people and make it accessible for every Latino to be seen and for every Latino to come and see the importance of them not only at the festival, their bodies in a seat, because we're creating this entertainment for you to enjoy, right? We want you to pay for us just as much as you would pay for a Marvel film with the same level of enthusiasm. So how do I make that happen and excite you enough in our marketing or whatever to get you to come? To see a movie about nobodies, but it's about, with the culture, to see a movie that's starring nobody that you know, but somewhere there's a narrative that you can relate to, that there's a film that you relate to and it's all Latino, right? And so that was the hardest work. And so we did a lot of field marketing. I had a whole street team I had to build up. I would have people in front of arenas. If I knew there was a Latin artist or whatever that was at Yankee Stadium or Madison Square Garden or wherever, I would have a street team out like that. Because when you go home, you're going to read the postcard, you can read the flyer. We were like, call for submissions. And we put out stuff in the daily news, and I was able to get them as a sponsor. So they would amplify, hey, they're looking for films. There was no film freeway. None of this stuff existed. So we really had to pound the pavement. And by the grace of God, we got the films. And
how long did it take?
It took us a couple of months, yeah. Like I was aggressive pretty fast. And I ended up hiring, I wanted people I never worked with. So I felt like I just started going around and just started kind of meeting people and saying, hey, do you want to do this with me? And I started picking up programmers and meeting some great people along the way. And New York at the time, I mean, it still is, but at that time, it was really bustling on the independent scene. There's a lot of independent organizations. You can go to West 4th Street or wherever, and you can find a lot of film groups and people trying to make it, It was like there was no digital.
The magic of New York.
It's the magic of New York. And so I was able to slowly get a tribe and then meet some new people along the way. And then we started putting together what would be the first group. And what was crazy is that, it was nobody, we never knew each other. And I had to earn their trust because, is this guy going to pay me or we're going to do this or whatever? And I was like, yeah, we're going to make it. We're going to get there. And then HBO threw a press conference and they announced the festival. And that was another, shoot moment because then when they threw that conference, it was at headquarters. It was a situation. And my, anonymity was kind of gone at that point. I was like, oh, shoot, now this really needs to happen. And we gave it a date. And we said, this is going to happen next year at this date. And we were cocky enough to say that it was going to be the event of the next millennium. That's what we call it, because it was in 1999. And the first festival happened in 2000. So in case the world shuts down, remember, it's like Y2K. Everyone thought like everything was going to happen. And I was like, all right, so this is the event of the next millennium. And that's what we labeled it as. And then the first festival happened. A year later, we got other partners, we got other people involved.
How many films?
Ooh, I think maybe it's like probably 50.
For that to be the first film festival and for you to have 50, that's
pretty much
so impressive.
Yeah.
Wow.
We opened with John Leguizamo, Rosie Perez, Annabelle Shira opened the festival with King of the Jungle. We premiered it where we did Salsa Viva, but it wasn't SVA. It was a multiplex, a regular theater, which was in Chelsea. But we had the line twice around the whole avenue. So we had to play the film twice because we had that many people. And so we ended up, just selling more at the table. We're gonna dupe the screen. And so that's what we ended up doing. And we had 2 screens, duplicate the screen. And it was crazy. It really was crazy. And then me and my friend were there. And she's like, what do you think? I was like, I think this is the start of it. We closed with Girl Fight with Gina Rodriguez. And we got Sony to trust us. This was the hottest property out of Sundance. This was the film everyone's talking about. And whatever I said, I begged Sony for this film. Because every major festival wanted it, including the Lincoln Center's festival and all that. And so this Nobody Festival beat everybody, and trusted us with the film. And that put us on an industry level, because you got to understand, when it comes to this world, you know, yeah, I felt like I had to prove the event to the general market. Mm-hmm. There's Sundance, there's this, but there's always this prejudice on what a Latino event is going to look like, or what kind of films we're going to play at a Latino festival. Mm-hmm. So we already had markings on the thing. So I already knew that. It's going to be different what you think. It's going to be marketed for what you think. We're not going to do the cha-cha marketing and all of that. It's going to be so elevated that I could compete against you. Yeah. That we're going to level up this content of whatever you think it's going to, you think it's going to be before you get there. So I already felt like we had so many levels to prove. We had to prove to an industry that this was going to be polished. We had to prove to the culture that they belonged here. And then we had to, prove to any naysayers, you know what I mean? Any naysayers that were in our way, to trust what we were doing. And how that it came to be, it was tough, you know. You even have Latinos. I had to prove to Latinos because some people are gatekeeping, some people doubt you, and I get it. I never took it personal, but it would it affects you, and so sometimes it could be a lonesome place when you're fighting all these things, and you're trying to hold it together. Thank you
for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I always ask about the beginnings because I think it's so important to recognize how far you've come, and I don't know if you've taken the moment, especially right before your 25th anniversary, which hearing the journey, my gosh, that's a huge milestone. But I do think it's important to take a step back and be like, wow, o sea, you guys started super scrappy, meaning no one gave you a guide on where to start. You figured it out trial by fire. And I think, like you were saying earlier, the passion is super clear. And the purpose is even clearer. And the importance of the work that you guys are putting forth is evident as well. So I'm really proud of you, honestly. Thank you so much for sharing that.
No. I thank you. I mean, for me, I felt like I was growing up, and for those who followed the festival since our beginnings to now, there's a whole generation that experienced this, and now a lot of that generation has kids. But now we have a new generation that's experienced it from like the 2000 and change up on up. But for me, I felt like I was learning leadership with no mentors, with no Latino mentors, especially. We talk about that now, but it was a different time, right? There was no social media, none of that, and there was not a mention of mental health and mentorship, and everybody was trying to get for themselves. It was that 2000 really in that time period. So for me, I felt like I had to learn leadership in real time. I had to learn how to run a business in real time.
And trial by fire.
And I didn't read books, but I had some iota of common sense, I guess. But no one that looked like me that can tell me where to go. I had to kind of I read books. We did a lot of research also on this film festival. So we researched other Latino movements. We researched what the public theater had tried to do. So there's a lot of people who are like, oh, they can do it. I can do it too. No. We put in a lot of homework, a lot of research. I even did some research with a friend of mine who had worked with Columbia, the Latino, he founded the Latino Studies Department at Columbia. He's one of the founders. And so we even looked at Latino studies. We really dug deep we wanted to really show the fulfillment of the Latino experience. But you can't do that without learning about it, right?
And there's no one way to do it.
There's no one way to do it. And speaking of one way, I also had to realize that I couldn't be all things to all people. Because when you put the word Latino, everyone expects you to be all things, especially as a Latino organization. And so for me, I got it. And that used to pain me because I felt like I wasn't enough. Like I wasn't doing enough at a certain point years down the road. And then again, I had to realize, you know what? This is what we are. And if you don't like it, you have a choice. You don't have to you don't have to go. You could like this brand just because you like the other brand, right? Like shoes or whatever. And I had to come to that realization that I can't be all things to all people, that this is what we can do. And I got to move with that.
And I think getting to that point, please correct me if I'm wrong, takes being so confident in your project and knowing everything that you've put forth to put it together to the point where you're like, I'm proud of this and I know the hard work that's gone into it and I don't need to prove myself further, which is why those who don't want to be involved or those who don't support it or don't like it or whatever, respectfully, todo bien, you know?
But that takes a while. There's a lot of tears. I'm going to admit it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of just like, am I doing enough? And it's pain. It's really painful, right? And then you don't have anyone to talk to. Again, my mother, I could have talked to her about this. She doesn't get it. You know what I mean? If she had her way, you know, I'd be a teacher or whatever. I'd go to school and then get the job. But I didn't quite do that. And I didn't tell my mother about it until she saw it on TV. When she saw it on TV, okay, I'm moving out the house. and she was like, what is this? And that was it. That's how my mom found out. And then I said, if you want to come. And that was it. But again, there was a lot of pain periods that you have to go through by yourself. And again, I was the youngest, so it's not like my brother. I even tell my brother. So I'm kind of going through this by myself. And I can't let my team see me break down. I broke down once on someone on my team. I was like, I'll never do that again. Because I don't want to be so vulnerable that you could take that for granted, and I can't do that. Like,
it sucks to hear you say that, though, because I think, and you, like you said, and you rightfully pointed out, back then, and maybe even up until recently, el tema de la salud mental is such a taboo, especially in our culture.
Yeah.
And it sucks that society has led people to believe that they have to go through whatever battle they're going through by themselves, especially with such a trusted group of people like the team that you hand chose and handpicked. And so, qué bueno that you broke down, in my opinion, because I do think it's important to be vulnerable. I think it only makes you stronger as a result, and it makes your team trust you even more than they probably already did. And feeling like, oh my gosh, I can never do that again. You know, wow, I just showed weakness. Yeah. That sucks. I'm sorry you felt that at the time.
And then I had to learn to fire people.
Yeah.
Because if we're not in the same journey, then how do I do that? You know what I mean? And I had some people I had hired that clapped back, you're not doing this and it should be like this and whatever. And I'm like, but that's not how I see it or whatever. And it's different when it's the difference between having an opinion and there's a difference when somebody sees a way at your vulnerability to take that for granted and run it. And I had to, again, figure those things out as a leader, but also know I don't want to treat anyone this way. You know what I mean? No one should be treated that way. But I had to figure it out. And some people, everybody was older than me. That was the other thing, too.
I know what that's like.
So I'm like the Doogie Howser of the situation.
And you feel like you have to prove yourself even more on top of everything else that you've already mentioned.
So imagine all of that.
I do hear you.
And then the pressure of you have the biggest company still to this HBO, and like, wait, I got to do all this, and like, so there's this thing where you just pray up. You pray for the blessing. Now you got to be ready for it when you receive it. And I really had to dig in and pray up. And it, again, it's not until now that I realized that I felt like this was God's purpose. Like, really, how do you make this stuff up? How do you make it? Sounds like a crazy story. And it's not until now that I was like, wait a minute, God, what did you do? I prayed for this. And now so, at 25, I'm trying to internalize it in real time because I didn't even think we'd last past the first year.
What does this milestone mean to you? You just talked about the beginnings of it. 25 years later, we are right around the corner from your 25th.
Unfortunately, it's hard to be Latino at this time.
It is.
It's hard to work in culture spaces at this time. I wish I could say things were really different. I think for a moment they were. And now, I feel like we're in a gray zone, and yet we're fighting to protect us. In every which way. And so I think there's that. I think, the fight continues. It just looks different. It appears different. Whether it's on social, political, every which way. And so it's an interesting period.
And it's such a privilege to be able to compartmentalize, but the reality is it all bleeds into each other. You just mentioned
does.
political, social, like it's all one and the same at the end of the day, because these are real lives that people are living as a result of the circumstances that sometimes and many times are not in their control. But I do think that going back to something that you mentioned earlier in terms of selecting the stories and making sure that they're purposeful goes down to the human experience and the fact that it may not be your story, but there are aspects that are relatable. And you see something on screen and you're like, oh my gosh, me acuerda de mi abuelita, me acuerda de my upbringing or the dream that I too have, even if it's a completely different dream, that's what's being portrayed. And that sense of community that you create, even in the theater space, it's like I might be seated next to a stranger, but we are experiencing this together. And it's almost like solidarity as a result as well. And I do think that storytelling in every capacity, but especially through film, is so powerful.
One thing that we did do early on is what we try to do is be above and beyond film. We try to fill the pocket wherever it lies, meaning we've launched a couple of programs throughout the years. We actually have a Futuro Digital Conference that's a whole track not only on digital content creators, but again, we realized that was becoming a medium, and yet there was pay inequities. And as much as we dominate on social media and streaming, we didn't own anything there either. So how do we discuss it? How do we get other podcasters or other, content creators, but not only talk about that world, but talk about entrepreneurship, talk about money. How do we save for our money? How do we prepare for, retirement? Like we're entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, some of us. How do we properly plan for the future? We're actually going to talk about that this year at the conference. Digital mental wellness. All of those things we cover at the Futuro conference. So that we realized we had to do a track of. And then we've launched, photography programs for looking for photographers. We even launched a comedy program where we were looking for Latino comedians throughout the country, and we give them an HBO special. So we've done that for a couple of cycles. Ralph Barbosa, who's a big comedian, came from that. He was a winner in that program. Mark Vieira, who's another big comic, won. And then we launched an agency in pandemic. And so in like 4 years, we've gotten a couple of Emmy nominations, won some Tellys, won some other awards. And so, again, it's how do we put the culture to work in different ways? And in all these projects, we open call everybody. Like we look for different photographers, we look for different directors. And how do we maximize our cultural and creative intelligence, to brands or to whomever? And kind of diversify. It's beyond just a festival at this point. How do we diversify but provide that equity? So if we're talking about equity, and diversity or just inclusion, period. Like I'm giving it to you in spades because I can crew up anywhere in the world at this point because I know a truckload of creatives at this point.
Speaking of creatives, let's talk about how platforms like the festival, right? And by extension, the conference that you just talked about and the work that your agency does, which is focused on multicultural work, right, within the creative space. Yeah. How do you think it has helped Latino artists and their careers moving forward? And how do you hope that it continues to contribute to that aspect?
I think they could tell you themselves. I mean, I think...
have them on. Just let me know who to contact.
One thing that we did that I'm most proud of, and they actually did a reunion I couldn't be there for, but I know they taped it, is all their previous hosts. So no Latinos were covering red carpets. And so it's like, how do we create the opportunity to have an open call? We have people host our carpets. You walk away with a reel that you never had before. And if you get celebrity, now you really have a reel that you never had before because we were having a hard time. And so all our hosts have done, gracias a Dios, to do amazing things. And we've had a mix of hosts. We've had 2 female hosts, we've had gay hosts, we've had whatever. It doesn't matter body type, whatever. We had one who was, just a full person, and
Plus
she
size,
took it.
yeah.
She's like, yo, I'm a full figure woman. And nobody's hiring me just yet. And like, we got her in, and now she's on a TV show right now. She's doing hosting and all that other stuff. So it's, any which way we could provide that equity, I think we have a good track record of it. Obviously, you don't get awards without good directors. And, we grew up with just new people, and I'm just really fortunate in that way that that's how you build community further. I feel when you do that with intention, when you, even the littlest details with casting, I want diverse casts, like for real. So again, when you operate from intention, it shows, but you have to do it, from the start, even if you look at our key art, our artwork, we put out a call for photographer. And, we found this photographer out of Queens. She's a surreal artist, never worked with her. We had our people look at it. We brought her in, and she's like, yo, I got to be myself in this. And she wrote this lovely post that I saw. You can't make that up. And the whole cast, we found them, on our Instagram. So we activate our socials as an extension of our community. So we don't just hawk our wares. We talk about all things cultural or entertainment or funny stuff. And we try to keep that energy alive in our socials. And I think that those are the little details that kind of just you graduate into the live events. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. As you continue to reflect on the journey,
okay,
what is an anecdote that sticks out from the 24 film festivals so far?
Ooh.
As kind of like, wow, it has been X amount of time, but I still think about this. For good or for bad. Whatever, like maybe it was a scare, something that was unexpected, anything.
Oh, man, nothing beats the first year. Nothing beats whatever happened that year. I think there's that. That's etched in my mind forever. I think our 10th anniversary was pretty special. Our fifth anniversary was special because the city closed down its Blue Room, the media room. They brought in John Leguizamo, and they brought in Judge Edwin Torres, who had written Carlito's Way, to come. And Michael Bloomberg just threw this whole thing, congratulating us for our 5th anniversary. We had a lunch. I'm like, what's going on? So that was a pinch moment. And then this was Bloomberg's first term there, but the city really rallied behind us, and they continue to support us, right? We don't just bear the name. They're really supportive of what we do, obviously. And then I think the 10th anniversary was special because every celebrity and their mother showed up. Like we had Calle 13, both of them.
Wow.
We had John Leguizamo. We had Vin Diesel.
John seems to be a strong supporter from the very beginning.
From the very beginning.
That's awesome.
From the very
As a
beginning. Colombian,
that makes me even prouder.
And it was so cool to say, but yeah, it was from the very beginning. Everybody, showed up, and I was like, and we had like wall-to-wall carpets. And we used to run the theaters, not in a multiplex. We used to have a single house theaters throughout Manhattan. So we would run from theater to theater. And sometimes there'd be premieres like a half hour apart. So I would go from the east side to the west side, do this, jump in the car, go. Jump in the car, go.
I feel like nothing has changed in that aspect.
And we would throw these huge parties. And back then clubs were different in New York back then. Like 10 years ago, clubs were different. And so we were really known for our parties. And I had every party promoter on the block, like doing something for us at the time. And it was a different era. Now it's different. Now we have a multiplex. It's a little more tranquilo. And it's still energy, but still, we have fun with it. Because every time when we do a carpet, people dress up, we put them to the gram. Like, yo, can you match this outfit? Can you, whatever. We play with it. And yeah, don't come into our carpet looking whack. Like, you can't do that. Can't happen. And that we will say. Don't come talk about the
Has there been a moment where you thought, wow, I don't know if there will be a next film festival?
Every year you kind of think.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think you can ever get, especially now, I don't think you can ever, you still have to beg for the money. I don't care what, yes, you still have to push for people. I don't sit thinking anybody or everybody knows us, including the audiences. So you can't sleep and think, they know us. No, you still have to push for the next gen. Because I always believe if you never experienced a festival and you heard of it, I think once you get in there, you'll come back. Mm-hmm. So I constantly have to convert people in that way. And so we still push for that. And then when it comes to corporate, funders, you still have to push for that because especially now, budgets are shrinking. And so if Latinos got half a multicultural budget last year, this year we have a quarter of it. And on top of that, I'm competing with major Latino institutions or just institutions, theaters, whatever. Everybody's competing for the same quarter. Yeah. And that's what makes this moment even more harder because everyone else is getting hit. And so, again, it's a tough time to be Latino. It's even harder to work in culture spaces.
So would you say that the biggest challenges right now are funding and then also continuing to get new faces, new bodies, new generations in?
And that will be ongoing.
Yeah.
And that's the part of the job for anybody who works in the arts. Anyway, and everybody works in the arts, always has that trouble,
Has there been a film that's been showcased in the festival that has left a lasting mark on you?
Oh my gosh.
I know it. It has to be hard because there's so many.
This is the Barbara Walters interview. I don't, there's so many. Man, there's so many moments. Our song with Kerry Washington, before she was Kerry Washington, came to the first festival, but our song, you got, oh man. There's so many classics, man. We had, was it Pero Como Pero? One of the first, we had this film from an Ecuadorian director. And then we did do a film with 7A Films, an early Colombian hit that really was big, and we did the New York premiere for that. And I wish I remembered the name, but it was one of the bigger Colombian box office hits. There's so many moments, man. Dominican Night, we used to do Dominican Night uptown. We are doing something of that this year, but there was a lot of it's hard to pin down a lot of special moments. Yeah. And you know what? If you look on our gram, a lot of people are reposting stuff. People post ticket stubs. People save stuff. This is crazy. People save our catalogs. People save shirts. They'll send me pictures of them working out on our shirt or whatever they're doing. And so God bless them. God bless everybody who just comes through, who shows us love. You don't have to save this stuff, but you do, And for me, it's really the People's Festival because of how it started. Yeah. There wasn't a celebrity. We never wanted a celebrity above the title. We never wanted any of that. For me, it's like, and when we first started, everybody's like, you got to have Jennifer Lopez, presented, or maybe you can have John Leguizamo present, or somebody presented. And that was a big risk too. I said, no. If we're so good, they'll come. Mm-hmm. And if we're really good, they probably have no choice but to. Yeah. And so, yeah.
I want to pause briefly on all things film in the festival because I do want to circle back to the Big Apple Circus that you were talking about.
Oh my God. I never told that to anybody.
The reason we're circling back is because no journey is linear. But I'm sure
you're the first to know about this
that
one.
Your experience there has contributed in some way, shape, or form, whether it's rolling with the punches, whether it's dealing with personalities, big personalities and opinions. So tell me your experience there, number one, and then two, how that has contributed to how you approach the work that the festival continues to do.
This is really Barbara Walters because I've never spoken this to anybody on camera. So I started out as an usher at the Big Apple Circus when I was 15 years old. And There was this woman who had a belief in me. I bugged the crap out of her. Her name is Sarah Jones. Sarah Jones, I love you to death. And I bugged the crap out of her to work for the show. And the circus used to be behind the projects that I lived in at Lincoln Center. So I was like, I want to know what entertainment is about. Like this was like Cirque du Soleil at the time. Like this was a big show. It was in a tent. It was European American kind of experience. I was like, I want to work here. I'm a kid. I lied about my age to get the job.
There's a theme here. It's giving bold.
I lied about my age. I later confessed because, you know, you got to sign the paperwork or whatever. But, what are you going to do, fire me at this point? So they made an agreement. Like, my mom was like, you keep these grades, you can do it. You slip up, yes, it's a wrap. And my boss made the same arrangement. I'm going to let you work a couple of nights, but if you can't handle both or whatever, the job is out. And so I learned a lot. It was like, literally, there was animals. You know, we had elephants as a coworker. Like, it's crazy. And acrobats and people from around the world. And so I really got to learn a lot about theatrical performance because it was very much a theater. It wasn't like Ringling Brothers. It was very like Cirque du Soleil kind of caliber theatrical. And so, and then I just started growing. And right between high school, like I graduated high school early, a year early, and then I got to travel on the road.
Wow.
And then when I run on the road, I got to be elevated in management, and I really had mentors that helped me understand all aspects of management. I was handling their money, I was counting money, selling tickets, everything. I was, balancing things out, and I really had other managers. Another woman who I'll shout out, Ann Foley, she's passed, but really, I was really grateful to be in a team and be with people, bosses that really cared about me beyond just what I could do for them, but really gave two craps about me.
Yeah.
And that
like
changed as a person. They saw me as a person. They saw me as this kid who could, also that,
and they believed in you clearly because they took
believed
chances.
in me. They took chances. And so, and that's how I really learned it. I learned every level of management. I still consult for them at this point, but people who see me, shout out, but they see me grow.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you how good bosses work. And this is a story I've never told. So one of my bosses, none of this festival stuff was happening. None of this crap was happening. But when I traveled around the country, but when I came back, I was like, I'm going to make my short film, and I can fund it with, I'm living with mom, so I can, the rent is a little subsidized, and then I can make this movie. And my boss sits me for 1 minute, and she's like, I'm going to let you go. I'm like, you're going to let me go? Why? I was like, heartbroken. I was like, you're going to fire me? For what? No, you need to grow. You need to find a life out of this. You need to prepare for a future that's beyond this. This place might not last, or whatever it is. She's like, you need to prepare for a future. And I think you can do that. And don't worry, things are going to be all right. I said, well, how am I going to get a job? And she said, don't worry. I got you. You'll be all right. You got to go to college. You got to do something else. You're not going to be here. Because then you stay stuck in the cycle of it. And I said, all right. I was heartbroken. She leaves me with this calendar book at the day. It was all paper, like a book. And she gives me a journal, and she gives me a bunch of stuff. And she's like, you're going to leave on this date. I said, all right. So I left. And a couple of months later, I get a call about a job at the French Institute. I said, okay. And she had recommended me from somebody else who used to work at the company to bring me in. They bring me in. I work for this company. They owned a theater called the Florence Gould Hall.
Okay.
And it was on 59th and Park Avenue. I started working there, and that's when the ideas of the festival started percolating. I knew all the copy codes. I knew everything. Back then, you would fax, you would mail. I had friends from around the way, from the other offices on Park, So when I made my presentations for the festival, remember, they helped me mail it for free on another company's dime. And I did all this stuff, and then I quit that job. And I said, listen, I've been doing all of this. I confessed to my boss. I think he knew something was up. I said, but I'm going to do something better. I'm going to rent this theater out. I feel like I pay it back to you. And I don't want a discount. Well, if you want to hook it up, but I'm going to rent this theater out. And that's one of the theaters that the first festival played.
What a full circle moment.
It's a crazy story.
I love it, though. I love it. And like I said, it's so important to share these because everyone's journey is so unique, but nonetheless, everything is intertwined.
And some of these people, and let me tell you, sometimes women help you out more than men. Both of these people were women. And sometimes, it's different, you know what I mean? But back then, it was like a lot of machismo, a lot of people out for self. These people were not of the culture, and there were women that helped me out. There's so many women that have elevated me.
Yeah.
And it's that's why for me there's even more as a Latino, as a male leader, to give back in that way.
Yeah.
Now we're having the conversation. I think pandemic got us into another conversation about male vulnerability and having conversations about men. But there's still a lot of machismo, still a little ego, chest thumping on it. And it's like, nah, I'm going to treat you the same way as anybody else. But, this is the time where you can elevate other men and you realize everybody has damage. Everyone has, even me, all of us have, remnants of our childhood that we wish are different or whatever. And it's like, yes, that could be your superpower. It doesn't have to be where you're at right now. Yeah.
And I want to know how those experiences have contributed to how now you are a boss. When you mentioned you were on the other end of being fired, even though it was with the best intention. And without that, you may not have taken a chance on the film festival. But what are those things that are cognizant and top of mind now that you're in a position of leadership when it comes to mentoring, when it comes to how you treat your employees?
Yeah.
Tell us more.
I think just to be authentic, like for me, that's why I like community so much, because doing what we do, even what you do, it's the most selfless thing you can do. Yeah. Serious. Like, who else is going to tell the story? It's not like ABC is running to have me on. I mean, or anything else, You realize even in journalistic spaces, Latinos are getting hit, right? And the story's shifting. People want the bad news. People want to see us in detention camps or alligator city, whatever they want to call it. More they want to have a conversation like this. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the cycle at the moment. And so, but sometimes, this is God's work. Someone told me that. I was like, yeah, I guess so. I guess it is. And so, you just treat people, with respect. And I think community building is so much to me. I love collaborations. I really do.
Me too.
I love bringing people together. And I think when you do it from intention without wanting anything in return, if you get something in return, that's whatever it is. But if I made an impression on you, then I think I did the job. You know what I mean? That's all I could ask for. And for me, that's, I think, where legacy lies. When you can look back and you say, well, whether it's through anything, if I impacted you or whatever, or if you impacted each other because you met at the festival, whatever it is, then I did it. But you can't do it from a place where I'm going to get something in return. It doesn't work that way.
And
I
it's
guess.
all about paying it forward and the domino effect. And like
and
you said, tu
get it in
granito de
spades.
arena, someone helped you, you're going to obviously, or actually maybe not obviously to some people like you were saying. But I do think that those who lead with a good heart and with good intention, it all comes back around.
Yeah. I've been in rooms where some people have volunteered. We have an amazing volunteer record of people volunteer. And then, later on, I'm asking them for something. And they boss up. And you never know. Treat people, no matter what.
Of course.
Treat people with respect, period. Sometimes we don't whatever. And you can't do that. But customer service teaches you that. Because you never know who you're talking to. And you never know who has influence. And we were obviously we were a big show, so we were around a lot of people with money, but definitely a lot of white spaces too. I had to navigate a lot of that. But yeah, I think when you come in with genuine, authentic intention, it comes back.
Absolutely.
It comes back.
Let's talk about this year's film festival.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing differently? What is something that people can anticipate, whether it's their first time, whether it's many times that they've been to the festival? Is there anything that you can give us an inside scoop on?
You know, opening night, we're opening with this film called Mad Bills to Pay.
Okay.
It's a film that won Sundance. It's a Dominican film set in the Bronx. And the Dominican film is a slice of life film, but it's by a Dominican filmmaker out of London. Bronx bred, but he studied school in London. And slice of life about this kid who sells nutcrackers, but which is a drink.
Of course.
And but it's trying to figure himself out. Life gets in his way, and he needs to figure out how to make right of his own life. But what's interesting about the film is that probably like 80% of it is improv.
Wow.
And the rest is but within the structure of the narrative.
Okay.
But these guys are brilliant. Like, it's a good piece. So really, it's won a lot of European awards as well. So we're really happy to premiere that, to run it here. I'll tell you an exclusive I haven't told anybody.
I'm ready.
So Michelle Rodriguez is getting our Impact Award. So she'll be here. And we're doing a 25th anniversary reunion, a cast reunion of Girl Fight. So we'll have the director here, we'll have the cast here. They haven't been together in the same room in that many years. So we've given the Impact Award to Eddie Garcia. A lot of people have received it, but she's the recipient this year.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so I feel like that's full circle because she wasn't
At the first one.
Michelle Rodriguez. Now she's
Yes.
like, I just found out, today her films have grossed, over $5 billion in the box office, which is crazy.
Qué orgullo.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And then we have a block party. We close with a block party for free for everybody.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's gonna be dope.
Okay, let's end with rapid fire, okay? Just super quickly. Favorite movie snack?
Ooh, popcorn, of course. And M&M's. Peanut.
I'm glad you, okay. Butter on the popcorn, extra salty,
No,
cheese,
butter,
anything?
light on the salt. Just butter, light on the salt.
Okay, favorite genre of movies?
Movies? I like a good comedy, but a good drama, action. I don't know all of it. Yeah, it's hard. Because some dramas
One, here's 5.
yeah, like I'll like Terms of Endearment, but I'll like a Die Hard or like Superman, the new Superman. But it depends.
What's your comfort movie? You'll never get tired of.
It's stupid. I do like Clueless. I could watch Clueless again and again. I don't know,
Okay.
as if. It's just something funny. It's just very youthful. What else is it? I like Rocky. That's a good comfort movie. The Underdog.
Okay.
There's a couple that I go to sometimes that I
Okay.
could watch again and again.
Who is your favorite director?
Steven Spielberg is certainly up there.
What do you...
He's, ever since I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hello.
It's like, and I got to meet him once, and I was like, what? And it was brief, but yeah, I got to meet him once.
Make your dream cast. Just rattle off some names for a dream cast
On anything.
on anything. But maybe give me some insight. Is this a comedy? Is this a drama? And
I
who
don't
are
know
we
about that.
casting?
I'll just name you some dream
Okay,
people.
okay.
Andy Garcia, Benicio del Toro. Who else would be good? Oh my gosh. Benicio del Toro. I'm gonna say
Some women, hello?
I'm thinking of some. I mean, Carrie would be interesting. I mean, I would see Salma Hayek.
Ooh.
You got
I
me
interviewed
thinking.
her once.
I'm looking down the floor trying to think.
Selma's a gem.
Selma's a gem. Who else is good? I mean, it's hard.
Honestly, that's a great starting lineup. Well, we can...
There's so many. I
Yes.
mean, there's so many newcomers. Trying to get me to remember their names, but there's some newcomer in Latinas. Jenna Ortega, for sure. I want to see her do something different. Like, she could do a thriller or romantic comedy, something outside of that zone would be interesting. I like Melissa Barrera. I think she's really good.
Last 2 questions for you. If there was a biopic on your life, who would you want to play you?
No clue. I don't know. I couldn't think.
Okay. Well, next time I see you, you'll tell me.
Somebody new.
Someone good.
Someone good. Someone good. First, you want a good script.
Of course.
As long as it's a good script. Yeah.
Okay. What is the secret sauce for films that get selected into the festival? What is the one thing that they all have in common, would you say?
You just want a level of quality. To tell you the truth, it's really trying to figure out a balanced palette because you don't want to lean too much on any particular subject. Right now, we get hundreds. We get so much content from around the world. Mm-hmm. So we really try to, there's some films that don't make it because if I got for example, 3 immigration stories or whatever, if I got 20 of them, only 1 or 2 are going to make it through.
Yeah.
Or unless the angle is really different, right? So in this year's festival, for example, it's very different. We have an immigration film that's from the immigration, but also from a trans experience. Mm-hmm. So you got a double hitter, in that moment, right? That they're both that this person's going through. But then we have one from a boxer perspective who made it in a different way from a young kid. And so it's things like that. We try to keep the palette diverse and even. Mm-hmm. So it's not just so one way, and you want the diversity in the content as much as you want it in the creatives. We always look out for female directors, and so that's always critical. That. So there's no one thing. The one thing is quality. Okay. If anything, you want quality in the execution, but we seek diversity. In a good palette of the storytelling, and also across, nationalities and representation. Yeah. We look out for LGBTQ stuff and everything that falls into that spectrum. Yeah. You want to make sure that everyone gets seen, and including our Blackness. We want everybody represented. So
to close us out, what is a message or a call to action that you want those watching to take away that you haven't already mentioned?
Come
to the festival, first of all.
Come to the festival. Tickets are now on sale at NYLFFFestival.com. And NY Latino Film Festival are all of our social handles. Mm-hmm. It's a cool community. Come through, check us out. There's a lot of free events, and there's some paid events, and there's some elevated VIP experiences you can experience. But there's something for everybody. We close off with a block party, which is all about community. I think we throw the biggest party of the summer to end the summer. And let's look out for each other. Let's really start having, I hope for us as individuals to have deeper conversations that allow us to mentor each other and not go to these network things and it stays there. No, continue the conversation, develop healthy relationships, professional relationships that maybe turn into friendships or business stuff. Sometimes Latinos we'll go to these inspirational gatherings and then you leave it there. It's no, continue the conversation because that's just as important as having the guts to ask.
Amen. So, well, mira, Convos with Sazón, considérala tu casa.
Thank you.
Seriously, whatever I can do to help, however we can collaborate moving forward in the film festival capacity or not, cuentas conmigo. I am a huge believer in leaning on your community and continuing to grow it and nurture it, like you were saying. So literally, amen to everything you said. Thank you for your vulnerability and for being here and for sharing your story. And thank you all for listening. Until